Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Gives me chills every time. I love that opening. Howdy and welcome, one and all. Anime Odyssey returns for the August edition tonight. Tonight, we are going to cover the high-octane, over-the-top, scantily clad adventures of Kill La Kill. First of all, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Anime Man 73. How are you tonight, my good sir?
Hi there. How you doing? And I'm doing quite well, besides the fact Master Chen tossed me around in Taekwondo today like a rag doll.
Well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. People, sometimes you get tossed, sometimes you get a tossing, and that's what happens. Before we get going, of course, hail and howdy to the chat. We are glad to have you here joining us on what is always a busy Wednesday evening across the YouTubes. We are happy to have you here.
Hello, chat.
Whether you are chatting away or just hanging out and chilling out, that is always perfectly fine. As always, we're just happy to have you here. We're happy to have you here, fellow anime lovers, because we do this once a month just to celebrate the glory that is anime, because it's fun. We got to do something fun to counteract all the crap. And the crap is going to be coming hard for the next few months. So, hail to how did you chat? I see Algrim the Strong. Hello, good sir. I see La Goddess Legionist, one of my mods, one of my regulars. I see Jaden Hamilton, the young man thirsty for entertainment. Who else is in there as I scroll down? Dermy Wormy, who will be joining us next month on Anime Odyssey. He'll be joining us on the panel next month. Looking forward to that. And let's see,
As
going down
am
the list.
I.
Hail Carl Carlson and hail, as I get to the bottom, Kurobaro no Majo Aki. Welcome, everybody. And again, if you're just chilling out, not talking, that's just fine. Let's have some fun. Kill La Kill. Kill La Kill is we're gonna get right into it. This show is the definition of over the top. It is the definition of over the top. Am I wrong?
That's an understatement. Well, first off, there's some things we got to understand. First, if I recall correctly, this was made by Trigger Studios, the same people who made Gurren Lagann.
Yep.
So
you're correct.
So it stands to reason the action and adventure is going to be over the top, and there are going to be very many boobies. And being a red-blooded male, I can appreciate boobies.
Yes, they're fan service. I rate this as there's starting at D level, which is just maybe a panty shot here or there. Then you get up to C level, little bit of scantily clad. You get to B level. There's you get bathing suit episodes. You get some bath scenes, but the goodies are covered. Then you get to A level, where you see everything but nipple. That's what Kill La Kill is. It's A level. You see everything but nipple. The fan service in this is very, very big, very, very in your face. It's part of the theme of the show, and it's glorious. Now, frankly, since you mentioned it, I'm going to say, since you mentioned it, this, in my opinion, as a standalone single shot series, 24 episodes. Since you're putting it up there since it's coming from the same people that brought Tengen Top and Gurren Lagann, this is a better show than Gurren Lagann, in my opinion. It's a better show because it has, frankly, better characters. The story holds up better. It's not as weird and out there, and it sticks to its plot points. And also, in my opinion, gives a way more satisfying ending than Gurren Lagann did. But that's a discussion if we ever cover Gurren Lagann. This is the first time you saw this, right?
Oh, yes, most definitely. Oh, and by the way, thanks, Aki, for helping me with Kill La Kill. I really appreciated it, Moto-chan.
Yeah, I think I saw Jaden Hamilton ask us no, and Dermy Rooney already answered it. No, it's not a Netflix exclusive. And young man Jaden Hamilton, you have to think outside the box. So I think as something that nothing is exclusive to anywhere in anime. It is
Thank goodness for that.
It is all easy for the grabbing if you know where to look, if you know how to find it, and sometimes if you have a VPN to make sure you get away with it. But that's, again, a discussion not for live YouTube. Anyway, so this was the first time you saw this.
Okay. If I may,
give me your initial feelings on it as you got into this, because I know first time I saw it, I was laid up in bed recovering from my China experience. I was a little out of it, and I remember I saw this 6 years ago now. This came out in 2013, 2014. I saw it in 2016. And again, I remembered a lot of the major beats, but I had forgotten a lot of details, and I forgive myself because at that period of time, I watched a ton of anime during 2016, 2017 while I was recuperating. And some things were literally just absorbed, cataloged, and pushed out because I was not always feeling well in terms of just exhaustion, and it was just a lot, and a lot of things didn't stick. But the major points of this one stuck. I just forgot a lot of little things, and I was just like this whole time, wow, whoa, they're doing that. Wow, the transformation when they transform into Kamui God Robe mode, man, that goes all the way up. It cinches all the way up into the hooch when they transform.
Damn, girl, what the hell are you wearing?
Every time. So how were your feelings when you got into this now, when you were watching this? Because it doesn't hold anything back from the start.
Nope, it doesn't. And okay, I will admit, with everything that's been going on, I went into this with perhaps more than a little bit of skepticism. But I have to admit, this show really, really won me over. It is a
Mm-hmm.
really good series.
Mm-hmm.
And the clothing they use in it, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's what he's talking about. For those who don't know, it's the Goku uniforms basically give you transformations, and in a lot of ways, it's very akin to mecha transformations. In some cases, people go through crazy stuff, and some of those transformations are out there, and some of them, if for mainly for Ryuko and Satsuki, their transformations into their Kamui uniforms are just woo. But they give an in-universe reason for that, and we'll talk about that as we get deeper into it. But yeah, it does. You're right. You if your first time in those first couple episodes, you are skeptical, but the more you get into it, the more you realize how deep these characters are. And warning, guys, there's gonna be spoilers. We cannot talk about this without spoilers because it's only 24 episodes. There's no going on. It's a self-contained story. We're gonna talk. There will be spoilers at certain points because we can't have a real conversation if we don't talk about the plot twists. We cannot.
Exactly. And I will say, this anime has, well, perhaps this is going overboard a bit, but it has more plot twists than a pretzel factory, and it gets not quite as wacky, but definitely up there in terms of wackiness with Bobo.
I hate Bobo. I hated that show. That show was shit. That show was shit.
To each their own. I happen to rather like it.
I hate that show with a passion.
If you disagree with it, well, to each their own. It's cool.
I hate that show with a passion. Fiery passion. I do not know what you're talking about there, Legatus. I don't know what you're talking about. You might not want to have to research that yourself. I have no idea if it's connected. But this show is strong because, one, again, any franchise is strong because of characters. This show has unique, powerful, likable characters. That's part of the thing.
Yes, it does.
You like the characters immediately. Perfect example. I started watching the summer season. I've started watching my summer season of anime, and I'm going through my new shows. And this morning I was watching Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. F that show. F that show. It is not fun. The characters are completely unlikable. Their desires are completely unlikable. The animation is plain and boring. I gave it 3 episodes and I was out. Nothing likable. This show, first episode, boom, you like everybody involved. And at the time, even when you think she's an antagonist, you like Satsuki because she's there. She's in your face. You can feel her powers, her presence, and it just you connect to the loyalty that her followers have for her and the world she's created in Hojo Academy. It's so all over the place in terms of all that, but it's there and it's fun. You are having fun immediately. And let's get into this then. What is Kill La Kill? Kill La Kill, 24 episodes, as I said, made in 2013, 2014. It is the story of Ryuko Matoi, who has just returned to her home, having come to the summons of her estranged father, Ishin Matoi, and to only discover him dying before her eyes as he's been murdered with a giant scissor sticking out of him, half a giant scissor sticking out of him. And she is set on the adventure to find out who killed her father. Very simple mission. She's a roughneck. She's a delinquent. She likes to fight. We get more of her backstory as we go on, and immediately she believes that those who are at Hojo Academy are the ones responsible, and that the woman at the top, student body president, Satsuki Kiryuin. Yeah, Kiryuin. I want to make sure I pronounce that right. Kiryuin. She believes she has all the answers, and basically she needs to fight her way to the top to get those answers. And in a school like that, fighting is permitted. It's part of the culture. And right away, you're into this. It starts off as a revenge mission, as a revenge quest. And Ryuko, she gets in over her head immediately. She gets in over her head immediately, getting into fights with these student body club members and captains and the Elite Four. They all have these things we mentioned before. They're called Goku suits, and they come with 1 to 4, 1 to 3 stars, 1 to 3 stars. Explain to us exactly, without the big spoiler, what is a Goku suit, Anime Man?
Without spoiling too much, it's a suit that, as I recall correctly, is designed to enhance certain abilities in people. The stars on them basically give the rank onto how powerful each suit is.
Mm-hmm.
Going from 1, which is the least powerful, up to 3.
Yeah, and there's a 4-tier society in this city that is built around the academy. No uniform, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. And the 3 stars are for the head of the student councils, the elite, the top of the Elite Four, as it were. And below them are all the 2 stars, which are basically all your club captains of everything. And then the 1 stars are basically the grunts of each society in the school. And Ryuko initially has success getting in there because what she learns immediately is that her the scissor, or as Jade Hamill said, it's a scissor sword. He treats it like a sword. Is that it is capable of destroying Goku uniforms, which immediately allows her to take out some of the lowly ones. But then she has to go up against some of the Elite Four right away and immediately gets her ass handed to her.
That's an understatement. Seriously.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Ryoku takes a lot of battle damage as this show goes on. And after a certain point, the battle damage is kind of going to happen because of what we discover what she actually is. But the great thing about this is that Ryoko, the mainstay of her personality is her never give up attitude. She doesn't give up. She's determined. But she does know when to retreat. She's not stupid. She may be a little reckless at times because that's kind of her MO in a fight, but she's not stupid. And as it starts right away, basically episode 1 does a great job of just introducing all but one or two of the major players in this. Right away after she gets her ass beat, she gets rescued by she retreats to the slums and gets found by a little punk ass kid, gets mugged by a punk ass kid, and I think she chases him home, and she discovers that it is the home of one of her classmates, Mako, and I'm gonna butcher this name, Mankanshoku. Mako. Some might consider her best girl in this show just because of her indomitable spirit.
Yes. My girlfriend and Peach Wookie and I have had a discussion on that, and basically the funny way we describe her is, and hold on a minute, let's see here. There you are, Mako Mankanshoku. Yeah, I'm butchering it too. Excuse me.
They just call her Mako-chan.
Yeah. Yep. But basically, the term we have for her is basically Taya on steroids.
She is
super
positive.
Now, yeah, she's super positive, just all the way out there.
Yeah, she's super positive. And now we're going to jump around a little bit because at one even Mako has her own arc in this. Because at one point in one of the most amusing episodes, remember, this is also a comedy. On top of the action and the sci-fi, this month's tag was sci-fi, and I chose this because this is science fiction. Comedy is part of this. Mako is comic relief. She and her family is comic relief. We're not going to really go deep into her family because they're just a bunch of crazy assholes. But basically, she is comic relief, but she's also the human center for Ryuko. She's her best friend. She becomes her best friend. She's the one that Ryuko looks to center herself, to calm her down when, and I use this term on purpose, when her blood is too hot, when she's too crazy, when she's going overboard.
Yeah. And I've seen, I can't say this. I've seen what happens when she goes overboard, and the best way to describe it is, well, going disastrously wrong.
Yeah, but Mako is the one. She's the center. But even at one point, Mako goes down her own little dark journey for one episode. At one point, when Ryuko is trying to play the game of the school, to play the student body club game, the club activities game, to fight and to get stronger and get onto the student council, she ropes in Mako and makes her the president of their fight club. And while Ryuko's the one kicking all the ass, Mako becomes the one that gets to reap the benefits because Ryuko lives with Mako's family. They took her in as basically an adopted daughter. And the whole point is that Ryuko hadn't had a family life her entire life because when she was young, she became estranged from her father, went off to boarding school, and basically became a punk as she bounced around schools. Coming back here, living with Mako's family, she sees what it's like to sit down, have dinner, have build relationships, even though the father and the son and the dog are three freaking pervs who keep trying to spy on her while she's in the bathroom.
They really are. And well, as for Ryuko, I will say this. If this were the 1980s or late 70s or such, Ryuko would definitely be one of those who would be listening to the Sex Pistols. Just punk rock out there, no nonsense. And I love her for that.
And what happens, though, is during the Fight Club episode, Mako basically, as they keep winning, the status keeps happening. They keep raising their status because then Mako gets a 1-star Goku uniform, which means they move out of the slums and they move into basically middle-class residential area in the city. And suddenly everything's great and fine. And it's a great episode because it's the classic theme of absolute power corrupts absolutely. The more power Mako gets, the more corrupted she becomes by it, only seeking more of it. And the family becomes corrupted by it. And they lose that family connectivity that Ryuko had grown to love.
You read my mind.
And at one point, the episode ends where Ryuko says, yeah, I bail. But then they gave Mako a 2-star Goku uniform, which transforms her into this crazy commander outfit. And she's forced to fight Ryuko, but Ryuko doesn't fight back. She just kind of takes the punches until Mako kind of realizes it. And she realized she's gone too far. But in that episode, it re-solidifies Mako's importance, that she is the center and that she's the window to warm, loving, comforting family, even though they're whacked out of their gourds. A good family, good at their hearts. They love each other, and how she is the ultra positive. And her gag throughout the show is whenever she wants to stop whatever fight is going on, she can instantly stop it by just raising her hands, and you hear the hallelujah theme goes, and everything stops, and then she does a crazy rant about something, completely out of it. They label her at one point as having the most selective hearing and memory in the series because she'll only hear what she wants to hear, she'll only say what she wants to say, and she can just do whatever she feels like because she has no real fear. That's the thing about Mako. Mako has no fear. Well, not much fear. She gets nervous about sometimes, but in terms of some things, she has no fear, especially when it comes to protecting Ryuko. Because, like you said, at one point in the show, when we're about halfway through the season now, and it's the Naturals election, pun on natural selection tournament, where Satsuki has basically obliterated all clubs. Like no more clubs. It's a fight to the finish. Only the top remaining students are going to get on the student council, and it's part of her plan, which we're going to talk about. But she starts the Naturals election, and she says to Ryuko, "If you can get to the top and beat the Elite Four, I'll give you all the answers you want." But we're forgetting something. We haven't mentioned it, of course. I'm getting too far in. I skipped over the fact because I wanted to talk about Mako, but when Ryuko fights, she dons what is known as a kamui, and her kamui happens to be sentient. And what is a kamui? Someone's going to be asking. Well, kamui is a garment made of 100% life fibers, the power source for all Goku uniforms. And hers has a name and it's conscious. It has self-awareness, and it's called Senketsu. Now that there's a problem. That's my beef with the dub. They say Senketsu. No, it's Senketsu. The dub gets it wrong because there are so many other shows where they add the U. They drop the U's off for some weird reason. No, it's Senketsu. And I'm going to say Senketsu. Anybody has a problem with that? Fight me. Senketsu is her partner, her literal partner in this, because it was he. It's not an it, it's a he. he was created by her father for her to use as a weapon, a partner, to beat the growing evil that we learn that comes about throughout the show. And what happens is when she puts it on, it's activated. And again, now we get a little, and again, there's a lot of kink in this show. There's a lot of kink when it comes to how they dress, what they do. And they don't hide the kinkiness in everything in this. There's no hiding it. None at all. And what happens is Kamui, which translates as God robe, must be activated by blood.
And I remember that bit, and all I can say to that is, where's the Red Cross when you need them? Because that much blood, jeez.
Well, now only in the first couple episodes, because we learn pretty soon that it's all about synchronization. So the reason that Ryuko and Senketsu work well together is because eventually, as they begin to understand each other, as Ryuko begins to understand that Senketsu's, and I'm not going to show a picture, guys, because YouTube will not like if we show pictures of this. We cannot. Normally, I bring up some images. We cannot. You can see Senketsu. He's the icon on the show today. That's him in basic Senketsu form without donning himself on Ryuko. We can't show pictures. We can't show images of this. We can't.
That would be most unwise.
YouTube would not like it. Bottom line is, though, when she puts it on originally, because she's not fully synchronized, it's absorbing too much blood, and it's basically a time limit. She has basically 4 to 5 minutes of fighting capability before she is sapped and will pass out. Within 3 episodes, though, once she accepts it and understands that she doesn't need to be embarrassed by the way he looks, by the way she looks when she's wearing him, that it's about synchronicity. And also, we learn later that a Kamui can't cover the whole body, because then it's, to use the term of the show, the clothes are wearing you, you're not wearing the clothes. And that's a big deal with this. And what she gets then is a special glove with a razor in the wrist, and she can pull it out, and it gives just that little bit of blood. And by the time her synchronicity goes up with Senketsu, the required blood goes down. It goes down, except as Anime mentioned, when she goes berserk in the middle of the show. In the Naturals election section, she goes berserk. Well, why does she go berserk at that point?
She goes berserk because she's locked in the middle of a furious battle, and she's really getting ticked off.
Yeah, but the specific reason she goes berserk, do you remember?
Unfortunately, it's one of the things that escaped me at the moment.
She goes berserk when she's fighting the Grand Tailor of the Kyorin organization. Let me get her name here. Nui Harime.
Yes.
She is a life fiber construct, and she reveals that she's the one that murdered Ryuko's father, because she reveals it by pulling out the other half of the scissors.
Yeah. If I might add something to that, well, Huey, I think it was Hime. Harime. She may look cute, cuddly, and bubbly.
No, she's fucking insane.
But beneath that adorable exterior is a bloodthirsty psychopath.
She's a monster. She is a literal monster. That's one of the great things about this show, is that the villains are villains. There is no redeeming these villains, and the actual villains, not the ones that are pretending to be villains for 2/3 of the show. No, the actual villains are not redeemable and do not get redemption. They get their comeuppance. But yeah, Nui Harime reveals that she killed Ishin, and that in the middle of the Naturals election battle, that sends Ryuko over the edge. She starts drawing on too much power. Her blood gets too hot, and Senketsu can't regulate it, and she turns into a berserk monster that starts to just go wild.
Yeah.
And it's in that moment, though, during that, the only way she eventually comes back is thanks to Mako. Because it already been established a few episodes prior that Mako is Ryuko's center. Not in a romantic way whatsoever, simply that she's her friend, she's her ground, she's her lifeline to normalcy, even though Mako's family is anything but normal. But you know what I mean.
Best friends for life.
Yeah. And That's why I said Mako's point. That's why she's as important as Ryuko and Satsuki as main characters, because she's there the whole time and she provides a pivotal role all the way to the end, and that's why it's great. Now, let's continue to talk about the characters, and we're probably going to get into some spoiler territory now in order to really discuss this stuff, because we're gonna roll it along here. Satsuki Kiryuin. What before you got the reveal that I'll talk about in a moment, what did you think of Satsuki Kiryuin?
Well, she may act like a total bitch, but the fact is that beneath that exterior is a woman who genuinely cares about those who are loyal to her.
Mm-hmm. It's
and
that. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
She genuinely wants things to be better, even though she goes about it in the wrong way sometimes. The fact is that deep down, there's a young lady in there with an actual heart.
She has a heart. It's a hard heart. The thing is, Satsuki, everything about her is hard. Even her looks. Even her looks are hard.
Yeah.
Those eyebrows, man. Woo, those eyebrows.
Those eyebrows, yikes.
Fantastic body, but those eyebrows. Woo.
Yeah.
No, Satsuki is hard, but she's hard because she was literally put on a mission at age 5. She was put on a mission by her father. And for the first 2/3, you think that she is the villain, or at least working with the villains, because she does everything to make Ryuko's life miserable, even so much as going up against her. And you think you're made to believe that there's a competition going on, because when she sees Ryuko have Senketsu, then she goes to get her own Kamui, which is let me see, what is it called here? Junketsu. Her own, which is basically Ryuko's is black, hers is white. But thing is, Junketsu doesn't have sentience. It's just hungry for the blood, and it will not. You can't synchronize. You have to do what she calls override. Instead of where Ryuko synchronizes, she has to use override to access it. Now she masters it very well, but she doesn't have synchronicity because she doesn't have life fibers in here, and that's one of the twists. Ryuko has life fibers built into her genetic code, but
yeah.
And the thing about Satsuki is that, again, she's on a mission. She dons her own Kamui, her own god robe, to be able to fight Ryuko. Of course, she doesn't really need it to fight Ryuko because she is powerful all on her own. She's one of those characters that her power level is already maxed out at the start of the show. She doesn't need to get any stronger. She's as strong as she's going to be, and she just uses tools to amplify it at times throughout the show. Junketsu, her sword, even when it turns into a dual wield. But Satsuki, that's why this show is great, because it does a great job. If you haven't seen it for the first time, if you haven't seen it, use your words, Adam. If you're seeing it for the first time, you buy into the fact that she's a villain because you think that she's putting Ryuko through the ringer. You think that she's being a tyrant to the school. You think that she's working with her mother for the grand design that her mother wants to execute. We'll get to her mother in a minute. You think she's doing these bad things, but then when you peel it all away, you learn that she was put on a mission by her father to stop the machinations of her mother. And then you look at it from that angle. If you watch it a second time, because then when I watched it the second time, I could see this. Everything she's doing, again, at some level selfish, because she doesn't know a certain secret that we're going to learn very soon here as we discuss this. She's putting Ryuko through the ringers because she's toughening her up. She's making her strong because she wants to use her in the fight. She needs to see how useful she's going to be, and that means making her grow with Senketsu. Dermot Worman, we're going to talk about the soundtrack. We are going to talk about the soundtrack at the end. We'll talk about that. Oh, yes, dude. That's a good 5 or 10 minutes of discussion right there. So I want to save that for the very end, because I have a special relationship with this soundtrack. I really do, ever since I first heard it. But what happens is Ryuko is she's put through the ringer by Satsuki, but in the end, Satsuki does this because she needs all the help she can get. That's why you got to love the backstories you get for the Elite Four, and you realize they're all only pretending to be assholes. I mean, how did you feel about that as you learned when the first twist happens and you learn that Satsuki and the Elite Four are good guys? How did you feel when that happened? Because you guys, as a fresh watcher of this, you spent about 15, 16 episodes really going like this. Come on, Ryuko, kick their asses, and suddenly, wait, what? How did you feel about that?
I can sum it up in 2 words: plot twist, or that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's again. This is why this show benefits from a second watch, not right away, because again, this is the second time I'd watched it in 6 years in preparation for this. But you realize that all these characters again are so great. The Elite Four, they all get their backstories. They all have huge backstories, and you realize these backstories are because these are good people or they were delinquents at first, but then, not all of them, but they had issues. They all had issues, but then Satsuki brings them into her fold, earns their loyalty, and they become diehard, fanatical loyal to her.
Not to mention they actually improve themselves.
Yes, they become better people by working for her because, again, she's not evil. It was all an act because she's determined to build the strongest force possible to stop her mother. Now, why don't you explain to us her mother?
Oh, her mother. Oh, I have been waiting for this.
Yeah.
This, and mind you, Adam, this is something that we should sometime do. A top 10 list of anime parents who we want to die a slow and painful death.
Maybe.
I'm
not a fan of top 10s, so but maybe.
I see. The mother, well, let's just say she fits right up there with Shao Tucker and Gozaburo Kaiba in terms of really dirtbag parents. This woman is just thoroughly and completely evil.
There's no redemption. Ragyo Kiryuin is evil to the core.
Ragyo Kyuin is the sort of woman who needs to burn in the deepest, darkest pits of hell.
I mean, when we get her backstory, when we're getting Satsuki's backstory, why she's doing this, we learn that her father, who was a master scientist, who was a genius in dealing with life fibers, at first was bewitched by her mother, Ragyu, and then Ragyu always just used him for his talent, and of course to have children. And Satsuki, their firstborn, they tried experimenting on her to see if they could merge her with life fibers, see if she could work with high-level Goku uniforms. And what happened was rejected. So her mother kind of basically kept her at arms, like, "Oh, you're kind of worthless to me. You'll be useful to an extent, but not this." And then the line is, you see in the flashback, well, she's useless. Perhaps she touches her belly. This one will be better. And then you see it immediately cuts to an infant literally being surgically altered in a machine to insert life fibers into them. And if you haven't figured it out by now, that infant was Ryuko. And therefore, that was
you are the most sick, man. Sick.
And Ryuko temporarily died while she flatlined during the procedure, and Ragyu literally throws her down the trash chute. It's a failure. Okay, fine. I'm just going to do it myself. I'll create Nue. Then she creates Nue, who's purely a life fiber form. But the thing is, her husband, who turns out to, of course, then to be Isshin Matoi, he changed his identity, rescues baby Ryuko, nurses her back to health, because what happened was the fact that because Ryuko is bound to the life fibers, she basically has, let's just say, take Wolverine's regenerative abilities and amp it up by 1,000. Because that's what a life fiber being can do. They can regenerate. So she's not human. She's not human. She's not life fiber. But he rescued her, and he transforms himself into a hunchbacked, one-eyed, mad scientist-looking guy and then founds the organization known as Nudist Beach, which is I think it's a good point now to tell everybody, explain what's going on. The whole point of this story is that Ragyo Kiryuin is the current head of the Kiryuin line, who have been shepherding an entity known as the primordial life fiber, which landed on Earth in prehistoric times, and basically by this show's history, guided the evolution of man in order to have man wear clothing, because the clothing needed to feed on mankind to survive and then spawn and then go farther out. The life fibers and then would spread to more corners of the galaxy. And it was the Kiryuin line which protected in this. And now they've reached the point where it's the master plan where Ragyo will turn the entire world into a life fiber cocoon that could spawn more primordial life fibers to be shot off into the galaxy.
In other words, we're dealing with intergalactic parasites. And as for the primordial life fibers, all I can say about that thing is there any nearby sentient race that by chance happens to have an intergalactic kitty cat for rent?
I understand the joke. I get it. But so that she's basically going to kill the entire world, and then she will reign over the life fibers as queen. And that's where the term, the clothes are wearing you. You're not wearing the clothes, because the life fibers are sentient creatures as well. They have sentience. They want to eat us for food. And it was Ishin's goal to stop that. So he created nudist beach, people who refuse to wear clothes and just basically wear gimmicky stuff to hide their genitals. Like there's the nudist beach characters. We're not going to go into them. They're major characters, but I don't want to spend time going on about them. They're there. They're kind of there to shepherd. Well, I'll say the main one. The main one is Ikuro Mikisugi, who is basically pretending to be a teacher at the academy. He's basically there to shepherd Ryuko and guide her along the way and give the plot reveals at certain times. That's his role. But and also he has glowing nipples and a glowing crotch. There you go. You can't not mention that. But
yeah,
the whole thing was then to stop the cocoon from being formed. And Ishin then made Senketsu. And he also made Junketsu, but Junketsu was his first attempt. Senketsu was the second one, given actual life, so that it would then be able to grow and synchronize with Ryuko. And then he created the swords, the scissor sword, which is made from pure life fiber, so that it can cut life fibers and then allow Senketsu to absorb them and grow stronger. And then there's a reason, because every time Ryuko and Senketsu defeat a Goku uniform, you see a life fiber thread get absorbed into Senketsu, who, of course, as he grows stronger and works with Ryuko more, can go through different transformations, which is pretty cool. Cool stuff.
Very cool transformations.
Yeah. But again, there it is. And so you realize that there was a two-pronged assault going on here. Ishin set Satsuki at a young age to do this, and Satsuki, who was basically a grown-up at 8 years old, basically set her mission to create Hongyoku Academy, where she would train an elite army ready to fight against her mother's tyranny. At the same time, Ishin then prepared to have Ryuko join her. Oh, at the same time, Satsuki also wanted revenge for the death of her father, because she didn't know that Ishin Matoi was her father. She didn't know that. And she also thought her sister had died. So her entire purpose was to stop her mother and get revenge for the death of her father and the death of her baby sister. And when she learns, the funny thing is, even when she learns that Ryuko is her sister, man, she just takes it in stride. She just takes it in stride and never has an emotional breakdown over it. I mean, Satsuki is in control the entire series. She's always in control, and that's kind of what's cool about her. But as opposed to Ryuko, who is constantly over the top, losing her head, going crazy.
Yeah.
But and all this comes to light during the end of the Naturals election fight. That's when everything comes to light right there. We learn all that stuff during and in the aftermath, and it's fantastic. You realize watching it, the interwoven character connections, the story, how it is that, and how it really is a fantastic. this is the proper subversion of expectations, wouldn't you say?
Oh yes, very much a subversion of expectations done properly.
Yeah. These kind of plot twists, this is how it works. This is how you enjoy it and how you appreciate it. Because even as villains, you liked Satsuki and Elite Four because they were impressive, they were fun, they were out there, they were energetic, and suddenly, boom, they're good guys, and they're on everybody, and they're on your side now. But then in a twist, what happens at one point is there is an attempt. They need to free Satsuki, who gets captured after the Naturals election. And everything goes out. She tries to kill Ragyo, and it fails miserably because we learn that Ragyo has the life fibers built into her as well. Even if you cut her head off, it will pull itself right back on. And everything goes to hell after that. The Naturals election, everything goes to hell, and everybody at that point then becomes nudist beach, which is kind of funny. Everybody's nudist beach. But problem is, when they try to rescue Satsuki, they lose Ryuko. And because then Ragyo has learned that Ryuko is her other daughter, and she realizes, oh, she was a success. I have to get my hands on her. And she basically mind F's Ryuko into they put her through the ringer literally to warp her memories that she had a happy childhood with her mother. And it's really messed up. Yeah, it's so messed up.
Totally disgusting.
And Ryuko turns into a psychopath, and she has everything. And then and then the tables are flipped. Suddenly she's brainwashed ultra bad guy. She gets and we'll talk about that when I talk about the music. I want the school attack arc. It happened in the middle. We're way past that. I'll talk about the music because it has one of the greatest moments of the soundtrack in there. But we'll come back to that for those who want to hear about when we talk about that. What happens, though, is now there's been a reversal. Ragyo puts Junketsu on Ryuko, and Satsuki puts on Senketsu. Problem is, no one can hear Senketsu except Ryuko. And that's part of the running gag throughout the show is everybody thinks she's talking to her clothes and she's crazy. But Satsuki understands what's going on. She understands that Senketsu wants to work with it. And you have a fantastic fight between Satsuki and Ryuko. Ryuko, where Junketsu is wearing her. She's not wearing Junketsu, and it's messing with her mind. And she's fighting Satsuki, who's wearing Senketsu and is trying to synchronize but can't because she can't hear it. Yet it's such a great lesson about, I feel like, free will and acceptance and remembering who you are. And it's just such a powerful fight because that's when the sisters bond. They really bond in this moment. What did you think of that fight?
That fight, wow! Just those two powerful women going at it in combat. Just whoa.
Yeah. And it's really cool because Satsuki is able to use Senketsu's transformations, and she learns from it because she gets Senketsu in her bloodstream after that. She mixes with Senketsu and Ryuko's blood a little bit there. So that after everything's over, at one point they manage to break through to Ryuko with help from Mako, who has been rescued from being absorbed by a life fiber suit at this point. Because at this point in the show, the whole world's been absorbed by life fibers except for Nudist Beach. But they managed to save Mako, and between Mako and Satsuki, they managed to break through to Ryuko, who in a brutal demonstration of grit and determination, even though it is massive painful, literally rips Junketsu off her own body, yelling, "Don't make me wear shit I don't want to wear." And the blood is everywhere, and it's graphic, but it's awesome. And then it's everybody back together because the reason she was susceptible because she had rejected Senketsu because Ryuko was massively upset when she learned that she wasn't human. She was somewhere between a life fiber and a human, and she thought that Senketsu was using her. Her father was using her. Everybody was trying to use her, and she goes on a rampage to try and stop Ragyo herself, while everybody else tries to rescue Satsuki, and then she gets captured. So she had rejected Senketsu, which is why she wasn't wearing him at the time. It's like, you disgust me. Don't look at me. I don't want you on me.
And that was probably one of her biggest mistakes.
Well, yeah. Well, again, the show is great because you're watching a character go through. It's the hero's journey. She goes through her hero's journey. She's at her lowest point where she wants to reject the world. She's been mentally broken at this point, and she even gets corrupted, but then finds her way back because of friends and family. And again, this show, I think I wanted to mention earlier. This show does the classic anime theme of, you have your blood family, and in this case, you do have two blood relatives, two sisters who just rediscover their bond and desire to have their bond, but it's also the family that isn't necessarily your blood that want to accept you as part of them. The Elite Four, Mako's family. It's those great lessons that family is what you make of it, and
Family
done
is
the
most
right
important
way.
thing of all.
Done in the right way, not in the crazy way that they want to say, don't listen in these days, don't listen to your parents, listen to daddy government. Not that shit that we're dealing with today.
No.
We're talking the
listen to
wholesome
actual
stuff.
daddy.
Yeah, we're listening to the wholesome stuff where sometimes your family is who you make of it, the bonds you make. And it leads then to, of course, an incredible climactic battle, because now the sisters fight together wearing their kamui, and Satsuki has learned how to transform Junketsu as well, and they go after Ragyo, who puts on this and Nue gets her ass kicked by Ryuko. She, at this point, she's gotten to get her ass kicked with a rejuvenated Ryuko, who cuts her arms off in glorious fashion. It's fantastic. But you get this massive fight.
I call it karma for what she's done.
Yeah, but you get this massive fight where everybody's just trying to stop the primordial life fiber from sending a signal to the satellite to cause the cocoon. When the cocoon starts, but then there's a great battle in space, and Ryuko just outsmarts her mother. Because remember, now you really, Ragyo is her mother. She outsmarts her, and it's just all kinds of great lines, and culminating in Senketsu being the one to do the ultimate sacrifice. He sacrifices himself to save Ryuko in the end, and it's hard. It's heartbreaking. It's bittersweet. The ending is great, but it's got its bittersweet moments to it. But you're okay because the world gets saved. Everybody learns their valuable lessons, and everybody's able to move on. And suddenly, Ryuko has her adoptive family and her actual family back. She has her sister who does love her and wants to have the relationship. And that's why it's heartwarming throughout all the zany action. It's heartwarming and it feels good. I mean, when at the end of this, how did you feel when you reached the end of this?
I can definitely say solid ending, very solid ending with good resolution. That's exactly what it should be all about.
Yeah. Yeah. You get a great credit sequence of Ryuko, Mako, and Satsuki going out on a girls' day out date, where they're just they go shopping and they have a good time. And now it's time to live life and wear the clothes you want to wear, and the clothes aren't going to wear you. And it's just that's why this is gonna go on my shelf eventually. I'm gonna put this on my shelf, having watched it a second time, being thoroughly entertained and enjoying it. It's going on my shelf. It's just a matter of money. But now before we go, because we're about an hour, we got to talk about the soundtrack. Jeremy Wormy mentioned it in regards to Ragyo's theme, which every time it appears, it just pulls in. This soundtrack is epic. This soundtrack is all kinds of awesome.
Oh, yes.
The don't leave me dry. Ryuko's main theme. I have the soundtrack. It's fantastic. The
song reaches out and just grabs you and just drags you in.
Plays, all of it is so well placed, so well timed. Ryoko's theme is basically her hero theme, and every time it plays, and there's the actual version of it where there's vocals to it, but then there's the instrumental theme, and its best example is during the school attack arc, where you still think that Satsuki is trying to take over all of Japan and make it all Honjo Academy, and at this point, Senketsu had been eviscerated into little pieces, and Satsuki was running an experiment attaching patches of Senketsu to Goku uniforms. And Ryuko steals a bike, and this only part of Sakechi has left is the scarf, which is tied around her neck, his eye, and she basically rides around to these battles, and every time the battle is tipping the wrong way, suddenly up comes her bike, dun 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 dun, dun, and she just kicks all kinds of ass, gets it, just deuces, and just gets the hell out of there. I love, but they shows it 3 or 4 times, and it's 4 times because there's four battlefronts with the Elite Four. Actually, no, 3 battlefronts, so 3 times. But it's so awesome. That stuck out in my mind the first time I saw it, and I was waiting for it the second watch through now, and I loved it just as much. Which is suddenly the bike zoom, and the theme plays, and she does awesome shit and gets the hell out of there. And I love that theme. It's so good.
That's what I call taking care of business.
Yeah, this soundtrack is so important to me that I've used it for writing purposes. It has crafted scenes for me. That's how important, and themes for characters. I've adopted it as themes for characters, used it to craft themes and sections of story. So that's how important this soundtrack is to me. That's how much I love it. That's how much I connect with it. So this soundtrack is epic. And like Dermy Wormy said, Rongyo's theme, when it plays, it always, you pause because it's evilly epic. Is that a good way to put that?
It works.
Epic? Yeah, evilly epic. It's evilly epic because it's just, that is the theme of a bad guy who just dominates everything that she sees. That's what it is. I mean, you want to say anything else about the soundtrack?
Nothing left to say except that this whole thing is totally kicks ass. It's totally awesome. It's very appropriate.
Yeah. So in the end, the story is fantastic, but the characters are fantastic. The animation is top notch. It's that, because it's that the studio Trigger that does it. It's that wild jump all over the place, exaggerated characters, bodies, actions. But because it's done in that style, it works. You're into the overboard nature of it. The Japanese voice cast is epic. The dub does a good job. My only complaints are some mispronunciations of things. There's some pronunciations, even in English. Why are you saying a word like that? Why did you say it like that? That's my biggest beef with the dub, is some mispronunciation of things. With the Japanese voice cast, that was the first time I heard it in that. It's epic as well. Soundtrack off the charts. A nice, tight 24 episodes. And again, fan service, top notch fan service. You enjoy it. It's not over the top. It's not cringy. It's not gratuitous. It's just wacky and zany. So I thoroughly recommend go watching Kill La Kill. You can buy it on Amazon. There are streaming sites that have it available. There are other ways to get it if you want to. You're gonna have a good time. You're gonna walk away, as Anime Man said. You're gonna walk away satisfied, and you're gonna feel good. Anywho, you have anything else you want to say about it?
I just want to say that, well, in terms of my little old rating system, because I'm an Aspie, I give Kill La Kill a solid 9 out of 10.
Yeah, it's in the 9s. It's in the 9s, definitely in the 9s. In the chat, you guys have been great. You've been filling in the holes, talking about it, and you must watch this from start to finish. It's great. Gorn Jim, it's fun. It's fun. No, there's no. It's not. The scissor sword is not a lesbian. It's not a Fukin scissor and reference. Not at all. The scissor sword is actually really badass. It's a badass weapon. Anyway, all right. It's another Anime Odyssey draws to a close. We will be back in September on, I believe we agreed, September 21st. It is Anime Man's choice for this next month. I will be providing him with a tag. And we will let you know within the first 2 weeks of September what the show is. And as I said, we will be joined by Dermy Wormy next month.
Quite looking forward to it.
We are going to have fun with it. And either way, chat, you guys were awesome today. Glad you guys had a good time. If you're watching on the replay, we hope that you have enjoyed it. If you had a good time, please leave a like. And if you're new here, we invite you to subscribe. And also leave some comments. Comments are also welcome in terms of telling us what you might want to see next time. That could influence us. Because what we do, like I've explained, what we do is we take turns. And the person who had their turn, we basically give the other a tag And basically, if that tag is found in the description of a show, then that show qualifies for the choice. And I will tell Anime Man what the tag is when we go off air because I've decided on the tag. Anyway, all right, guys, thanks again. We're gonna go out to the intro. So take it easy, everybody. You have a good night wherever you may be. I'm gonna go have some pizza. Good night, everybody.